Shabbat Shalom, call all Yahweh Shem Yahushua, Hashem and Kakodash, double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of GMS, including the elders that came before them that taught us this truth. Shabbat Shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word of truth and its sincerity, the hopeful elect, tabernacle of David. I'm the brother Yahshua, back with the World War III Daily Update. Shabbat Shalom unto you that are listening. I'm going to just jump to what this guy is saying right now because it's live, so then I'll bring up the precepts. It's a lot.
That's where we are. Colonel McGregor believes that, first of all, the counteroffensive, it didn't just fizzle. It really just never happened. It was more in the imagination of Zelensky and some of the other folks that he's got working for him. But now, Colonel McGregor is of the opinion that Russian forces may very soon turn and seize the port city of Odessa and cut Ukraine off from ocean access, which would be truly the effective end of the Ukrainian country. In addition, he's predicting that they'll first take Odessa, and then they will go to the northeast, and they will seize the second largest city in Ukraine, which is Kharkiv. Now, one of the reasons that behind believing that the Russian forces are thinking about Odessa is that President Putin has made clear his intention to capture some very vicious terrorists who really unleashed a murderous crime in Odessa back on May the 2nd of 2014. What happened? In 2014, the Central Intelligence Agency planned, promoted, and assisted a coup that overthrew the duly elected president of Ukraine, a fellow named Yanukovych. Yanukovych was driven out on a couple of months before this crime in Odessa. And so what happens then is the Central Intelligence Agency and the State Department literally selected the ministers who would take over the new government of Ukraine. So it was really a puppet government installed by the Central Intelligence Agency. And so a couple of months go by, and there's a tumultuous period after the coup was staged, and the revolutionary junta that was installed decided that they were going to suppress any voices of opposition. And so there were some demonstrations against the coup because keep in mind, it had overthrown the duly elected government of Ukraine. So naturally, there were people who opposed that and they protested. Well, in any event, down in Odessa on the Black Sea, these Ukrainian nationalists who had staged the coup trapped 42 men and women in a trade union building where they had escaped to, and all of these were unarmed people, and the Ukrainians burned them alive. And in fact, there was a fellow, Andrei Brzezinski, who jumped out the window to escape the fire, and they set upon him and they beat him to death with iron pipes. And it was believed rather widely that the massacre in Odessa was a planned act of intimidation, basically in order to solidify the strength of the coup government, the revolutionary government, and to prevent any of the Russian-speaking Ukrainians from voicing opposition. It's important to note that the Central Intelligence Agency clearly has produced blacklists of people for the Ukrainian government to pinpoint and to go out and arrest or to assassinate. Um, the governor of Nikolaev, that region, openly called for the assassination of any Ukrainians who supported Russia. Many of them do because they speak Russian and that's their heritage. Ukraine is a very complex place, and there is a mix of ethnic Ukrainians and ethnic Russians. There was a former member of the SBU, which is it's kind of like the old KGB or any of these intelligence agencies, and he defected to Russia in 2018, and he reported that the SBU had been advised by the Central Intelligence Agency since the coup in 2014. But in any event, the Ukrainian military failed to pull off their much touted Kherson counteroffensive on the Black Sea. And then there's some question that was raised by Andrew Napolitano. What really are the casualty rates on both sides? It is the opinion of Colonel McGregor that the actual number of Russian dead is somewhere between 13 and 15,000 dead, as opposed to 60 to 80,000 on the Ukrainian side. So we're talking about, you know, multiples of people, of Ukrainian soldiers dying for every Russian soldier. And I think it is clear at the very beginning of the war, I think the Russians may have lost more soldiers than the Ukrainians for that short period that they were launching that attack against the Ukrainian capital, Kiev. But then when they refocused their efforts down to the east and along the Black Sea, they changed their tactics. They came up with much more aggressive rules of engagement. And at that point, their casualties went way down and the Ukrainians' casualties went way up. And that continues to be the case right now. Okay, here's another report. This is Carl Osgood. He compiles a report for the Executive Intelligence Review, and he reported on the weapons pipeline going into Ukraine. And from all of the intelligence he's receiving, it appears that the flow of weapons from the United States and NATO going into Ukraine may very well be drying up to a large extent. He cited statistics for light crew-served weapons like mortars, anti-armor, anti-tank, anti-aircraft weapons. And he showed that they hit a peak of 11,000 units in April, and it's dwindled down to 1,200 in August. So we're looking at, you know, roughly a ninth or a tenth of what they originally were. When you get into the heavy weapons, the tanks, the armored vehicles, artillery, that type of thing, the rate of replacements had reached almost zero in August. So there's a tremendous decline. And meanwhile, of course, the Russians are destroying the weapons that they do have. So, and there have been complaints, or at least concerns raised by military officials in NATO that their own military capabilities are being diminished because they're burning through so many weapons, sending them to the war in Ukraine.
Okay, and I'll stop it right there. Yeah, you're worried because the larger war is coming. Okay, and dilly-dallying around between Russia and Ukraine is going to expend all your firepower when it's time for the larger war. Okay, the Battle of Armageddon. All right, so yeah, that's just a little update on what is and what is not going on. This is Richard Black, right? Or the Richard Black channel. This is going on right now. Streaming now. It's Odessa falls and Ukraine becomes a landlocked country. That's what's going on right now. So we'll get a couple precepts on the way out. So let's go to Joel. Okay. And basically he said this is America's doing. When he went back to 2014 and explained the coup and the puppet government installation, all right, this goes all the way back to that. And then that atrocity that Vlad said, oh, hell no, right, gives you a little perspective on what's actually going on between this update and yesterday's update of how the Nazis fit into this thing and how America is funding the Nazis, all right, and ammunition, all right. It's Joel 3 and 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Now they were talking about making and having a supply of weapons. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. That make them weapons. All right? And they're not making enough to sustain them. They're worried about, and I'm talking about NATO and the EU, because they're supplying the weapons to the Ukraine, where you have Russia is in full wartime mode. They're over there making weapons 24/7. Okay? So weapons are being made for what? For that war. Let the weak say, I am strong. All right? What is actually going on over there? Why is this happening? What is America doing? Staging a coup and installing a puppet government. What are they doing? He kept saying the CIA's been doing this. The CIA is the Central Intelligence Agency for the United States. What is the CIA doing in Eastern Europe, in the Ukraine? What is Joe Biden, what is Hunter Biden doing over in the Ukraine? Okay. Isn't that Russia's territory? What are you doing over there? Okay. Here's what you're doing. They covet. Micah. Let's go to 2 and 1. Okay. Whoa. And this is talk about Babylon the Great. All right. Micah 2 and 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. Okay, you damn witches. And they covet field. Hey, we want Ukraine. This is what America says. We want Ukraine as a jumping off point to take down Russia. We want to divide Russia up between NATO, the NATO countries, much like they did Africa. Read that again. And they covet fields. Okay? And take them by violence. There's an ethnic war going on over there right now. Okay? The ethnic Russians, the ethnic Ukrainians, all right? And take them by force. Well, we're going to stage a coup and plant a puppet government, right? So we can add the Ukraine can join NATO, and we're right on the border of Russia. What? What? That's the former Soviet Union. What are you talking about? And they covet fields and take them by force, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house. They're oppressing right now Vlad and his house, Russia, even a man and his heritage, the ethnic Russians. Okay? That's what we see going on right now. Anyway, that's enough for today. Just a little update. Tomorrow is the last update of the week. With that, we hope that we'll end it right here. We hope that the elect were edified, you brothers and few sisters. With that, Shabbat Shalom.